Hey, have you ever been to Mount Sinai? I mean, I have asked these questions to so many people, and everyone tells me no, Rabbi. I say, do you know where it is? People tell me, I don't know, I have no idea. Because really nobody knows exactly where Mount Sinai actually is. But think about it for a moment. Isn't this strange? I mean, put this in perspective. Have you been to Israel? And many people tell me, yeah, I've been to Israel. And even if you haven't been to Israel, can you pinpoint the place where Israel is on the globe on the map? And most people will say yes. Have you been to the Western Wall? Absolutely. I mean, in Jewish history, we're so meticulous about recording every single detail and every site, every experience we had. I mean, we know exactly what day we left Egypt. We know what we ate the night we left Egypt. The matzah. I mean, does anybody, if I ask you a question, does anybody know what they ate on the Mayflower? The famous boat. I mean, we know everything. We know when the manna started falling to the Jews in the desert. We know when the manna stopped falling. We even kept a little jar of that manna for close to 1,000 years. We know where the Holy Temple stood in Jerusalem, Temple Mount. We know where our patriarchs and matriarchs are buried in Hebron. I've been there just recently. Why in the world haven't we made an effort to preserve the location of Mount Sinai? I mean, you know what I'm talking about here? This is the greatest event in our history that took place. It's in this week's Torah portion, which was the giving of the Torah on Mount Sinai. I mean, never in our history do we find any form of a pilgrimage, of traveling back to that famous mountain. No one. Not by our nation as a whole, or not by any individuals. What is this all about? How could this be? There's a very powerful message here, friends. Open up your hearts as I share with you the following idea. Listen closely. You see, everything in life we know by association. Meaning to say, have you ever noticed that your body grows hungry every day around the time that you usually eat lunch? Or let's say, for example, you have a favorite restaurant or a certain place that you associated with a certain delicious dish. Did you notice that when you think of this restaurant, especially as you step into it, you begin to salivate. You begin to taste that food. Because it's human nature to learn by association. That means if we associate a certain place, a certain time, a certain person with a certain experience, whether it's good or bad, our body and our mind mentally and emotionally will prepare for that experience when we encounter that time and that person, because the power of association is so important. So now that we understand why we don't know about where Mount Sinai is, because if we attribute significance to the place of the giving of the Torah, then the Torah would become associated with that stationary spot. But that's not really, friends, what the Torah is all about. Because the Torah is anything but stationary. Because the Hebrew word for Jewish law is called halacha. You know what halacha means? It means to go, to be on the go. So being a good Jew is not measured by what I experienced once upon a time, but it's about where I am now, where I am going. One of the most powerful messages of the giving of the Torah on a random mountain, in a random spot, in a random desert, is that wherever you are, no matter which desert it may be, no matter how dark or barren it may feel, you have the power to climb a mountain and receive the Torah. Such a powerful message. Because the Torah is not stuck on Mount Sinai. It's not stuck in a particular spot. The Torah is not just relevant when you're in a good place, when you're sitting in synagogue, or when you're inspired at your local Chabad house on a Friday night. Friends, the Torah is with you wherever you go. If you choose to create that moment and make that moment into a Mount Sinai experience. Because God chose to give the Torah on an elevated mountain, in a flat, barren desert, to teach us that wherever you are, If you make that firm decision that you want to experience a godly moment, you want to climb your mountain, then regardless of where you may be, God will make sure that you will be successful in doing so. Because God will meet you on top of that mountain, wherever it is, even when you're alone. For as long as you make a firm, conscious decision that this is what you want to do, no matter where, no matter when, I want to climb my mountain and I want to meet God on my own personal Mount Sinai. Friends, open up your heart. Open up your minds for a most powerful story which took place not so long ago. It's a real story with real people. A story that reminds us that no matter where we are, that if you make that firm decision, you can create a Mount Sinai experience wherever it may be. This story actually takes us back to the beautiful mountains of Colorado, near Boulder, Colorado, where a wonderful young family, Rabbi Yisrael and Rebbetzin Leah Wilhelm, serve as the Rebbe's shluchim emissaries and established an incredible Chabad house with thousands of students who engage and are connected to the wonderful activities that they do, and they are building a most beautiful community in the mountains. Now, as you know, that the life of a shliach and a shlucha, of a Chabad rabbi and a Chabad rebbetzin, is a bit crazy. It's unpredictable because we're working 24/7. And even more so when you are on a college campus. People are coming and people are going at all hours of the day and the night. You know, they would say in Yiddish, it's a bit meshuggah. It's really, to be a shliach and a shlucha, generally, it's an unbelievable sacrifice and dedication to your community. Rabbis and rebbetzins are always on call. So therefore, the rabbi and his wife had a very firm rule, this rabbi in Colorado, that every year when the holidays were over, and the hectic season of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Simchat Torah, the high holidays, where it was a lot of work, they would always, Rabbi Wilhelm in Boulder, Colorado, would always take a day just away for himself and his wife to rejuvenate. You know how they spell that? Rejuvenate, like J-E-W. Anyways, they took this day off, 2 days, so they could recharge themselves and get ready for the rest of the new year that's up ahead. So it happened that during this very hectic holiday season, it was a lot of students came and go, but then it was finally over. It was just a day or two after Simchat Torah, and they really were looking forward to take this short break off. And they planned to go away for an evening in the beautiful Colorado Rockies. And interestingly, every year they went to the same place. It was a beautiful Estes Park where they would go to the same hotel. They would go, they would relax, they would rejuvenate, and then they came back, sometimes a day or two later, ready to rock and roll, to be there for everyone who calls upon them, to be that shining light as a Chabad rabbi and rebbetzin do in Boulder, Colorado. Now, what so happened that particular year was the strangest thing. It was the most beautiful fall Colorado has ever seen. So what happens is all the hotels were booked. So what are they going to do? So they were about thinking, let's just cancel it. We won't go away this year. And the rabbi said to his wife, you know what? Let me try. Maybe there's one more hotel. Maybe it's not as nice as the beautiful scenery that we got used to over the past years. But you know what? Let me check. Maybe it's a little nice town, and perhaps there's a hotel that we can go to and relax a little bit away from all of the hustle and bustle of life. And sure enough, they find in the small town a place to book. And they plan on leaving 11 o'clock in the morning the next day, and they will have their little time away. But friends, sure enough, as is the typical life of a Chabad rabbi and rebbetzin, that their plans were postponed. Sadly, someone passed away unexpectedly, and the rabbi had to officiate at the funeral. And when they came back, it was already getting late in the afternoon already, and they really wanted to make this getaway work. But now, it's going to be much shorter than originally planned, because of the logistics, of people watching the kids. They had kids at home, and the events and the programs that are planned for the next day, when they had to be back or next day in the evening. But you know what? They said, let's give it a try. Even if it's a short time, let's just have a little time away. And sure enough, they get into the car, and the Rebbetzin looks at her husband and says, hold on a second. What are we going to eat? We didn't take anything with us. So at this point, the rabbi said, listen, we don't really have a lot of time. The clock is ticking. Let's just go. I'm sure there's going to be some supermarket around, and we'll stock up on some essentials. We'll manage to find some basic kosher foods that every local grocery supermarket in the United States carries. We'll make the best of it. Well, friends, as you can imagine, sure enough, they arrive at their location of that new hotel, and they realize that this town is so small, there's maybe 100 people living in this town, and there's absolutely no grocery store there. All you had, actually, was a marijuana shop, because it's legal in Colorado, a 7-Eleven, or maybe you can buy some potato chips and some Coke. So they took a look at each other. What do we do now? We're hungry. It's been a long day. It's been a long week. It's been a long month. We gotta eat something. So they pull out their map, they go on their phone, and they try to find another place. And they find there's another town a little bit bigger, 45 minutes away, called Idaho Springs. That was the closest normal city to the little town that they were in the middle of nowhere. So the rabbi says, I think we're just going to have to go there. What else should we do? So they drive another 45 minutes in the direction of Idaho Springs, and they finally get here. They find a Kroger supermarket, like we have here in Nashville. They go inside, and they're feeling quite a bit antsy. The rabbi turns to his wife, and he says, what is going on? First, a hotel wasn't available. Then we finally find this place in the middle of nowhere. And then we have to travel another 45 minutes of precious time just to find some food. All we really have is a few hours to relax and breathe before we have to go back home to the daily grind and to the crunch of the unbelievable work that we're doing. And now, here we are in this forsaken town, desperately looking simply for a kosher bite to eat. As the rabbi is standing looking to see on the items he picks up on the shelf, is this kosher? Looking for a kosher symbol. His phone rings. He's thinking, who's calling me now? Generally, the rabbi tries to shut off his phone when he goes on vacation. However, during the weekends, the Chabad house line is always forwarded to the rabbi's phone, as all rabbis, they always do. If they go out of the office, calls are forwarded to them. So it comes up as this is a call being routed from the Chabad house to the rabbi's phone. So the rabbi's thinking, well, if the calls are being routed from the Chabad house, I must pick it up. Maybe there's a Jew in need somewhere. Rabbi's always on call. So the rabbi picks up the phone, and he hears the voice of a young woman. And she says, is this Chabad? Yes, it is. How can I help you? The rabbi says. Now, for a moment, the rabbi wasn't standing in the supermarket town of Idaho Springs. He was stationed as a soldier on the front lines of picking up a call, helping a fellow Jew. He was there, but he wasn't there. He was back at home. Someone's calling. Here the young woman says, listen, I know this sounds crazy, but listen closely. This is what I need to ask you. Okay? She goes, listen, my name is Stephanie. I'm calling every Chabad house in Colorado to see who can help me with a little bit of a strange request. So the rabbi says, go ahead. What could it be? I'm a Chabad rabbi. I've heard every type of strange request you can imagine. So she says, listen, Rabbi, do you possibly know anyone in Idaho Springs who possibly has a pair of tefillin? The rabbi's standing there in the canned food aisle of a Kroger's in this forsaken town. And the rabbi tells the woman on the phone, what? One more time. What did you just say? And she repeats herself. She goes, I know this is a far-fetched question. I know that you are Chabad of Boulder, and you are stationed quite a far distance from Idaho Springs. But I'm desperate. Do you have any idea if there's a pair of tefillin somewhere in the Idaho Springs, Colorado area? Somebody who can help me. The rabbi asks her, what's going on? I mean, why are you asking this question? And she says, listen, I'm right now with my boyfriend, and we're traveling. And my boyfriend made a commitment 4 weeks ago to his Chabad rabbi back at home where he lives, which is in Minnesota. And he made a commitment that he's going to put on tefillin every single day and never miss a day. Well, Rabbi, we came on vacation to Colorado and we forgot to pack the tefillin with us. And we're 2.5 hours away from the closest city. And my boyfriend realizes he's not going to have tefillin today. And he's going to having a meltdown. And he says, we need to find a pair of tefillin. We're going to turn over the world till we find it. And he says, listen, I made a commitment to build my Mount Sinai in the middle of the desert. It doesn't matter where I am. I need to climb the mountain. I need to put on the tefillin. Because if not, we're going back and we got to rush because the sun is setting in a few hours. And we got to get back to the closest big city to get a pair of tefillin. The young woman tells him, listen, I don't understand. I really can't get it. You haven't put on tefillin for 30 years. All of a sudden now you're desperate, she tells her boyfriend. Come on. You didn't do it your whole life. You'll miss a day. And he says, listen, I've been doing it now 4 weeks. I never missed a day. I made this commitment, and I'm telling you, if I made this commitment, God will help me. And she's telling the rabbi, I looked at him and he says, you know what? I feel your passion. I'm going to help you find that tefillin. So Rabbi, she tells this rabbi, you're the 6th Chabad rabbi I'm calling in the state of Colorado. And I know it's a far-fetched request. But maybe there's someone you know who lives closer to Idaho Springs who can help us. Rabbi Willem says with tears in his eyes, where are you right now? Where are you now? She goes, I don't know where I am. We're in a parking lot of some grocery store in Idaho Springs. The rabbi says, which grocery store are you in? She says, hold on. Let me go check. She looks up and she looks and she sees we're outside of a place called Kroger. It's on the corner. The rabbi's like, are you on the Kroger on the corner of Iowa and 42nd? She goes, Rabbi, how do you know? The rabbi says, stay right where you are. What color is your car? 1 minute and 30 seconds later, the rabbi and this young Jew, Yaniv, embrace in the parking lot of this Kroger in Idaho Springs, Colorado, and they build a Mount Sinai in the middle of a barren desert. My friends, when you make a commitment that you want to receive the Torah and you want to climb that mountain, God will make sure that a Chabad rabbi who's supposed to go on vacation to a totally different city, that hotel will be full. They'll be late because of a funeral. They will have no food in the town where they're staying in, and they're going to have to drive another 45 minutes to another town. Why? Because the stage is set, the lights are dim, and everything is there just for that one moment that you can climb your Mount Sinai and meet God on top of that mountain. My friends, we're going to be celebrating the holiday of Shavuot very soon. I invite you to join me to meet God on top of the mountain. It's going to be 3,336 years from the time we received the original 10 Commandments at Mount Sinai. And I invite you to join me once again to hear the reading of that very same 10 Commandments on Wednesday, June 12th at 5:30 p.m. at Chabad of Nashville. This will be a deja vu experience for your soul. That very same soul that was present at the giving of the 10 Commandments at Mount Sinai, and will be spiritually recharged as it recommits its vows to the one above when it listens to the reading of the 10 Commandments on that very same day, 3,336 years later. So my friends, Now is the time. Grab the moment, renew your vows, and recommit yourself to your personal relationship with the Almighty God on this day of Shavuot. And we know that when you do your part and meet God on the mountain, He will do His part and shower you with His benevolent blessings and fulfill all of your wishes and desires and answer all of your heartfelt prayers. I look forward to seeing you on Shavuot at Chabad of Nashville for that very special moment that you and I together are going to experience to meet God on the mountain. Lehitraot and Shabbat Shalom.